was looking at some of the stories, rather songs, I should say, that we sang whenever we were children, and they were just cute songs to sing. We would, run around, hold hands, go around in circles. I think about London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. I looked it up, and they were saying that in the 11th century there was a raid by Vikings, and that's where that song came from. It wasn't a pleasant song. It really wasn't a fun children's time that happened, but a song was made up about that, I guess, to remember the events. I think about the song "Ring Around the Roses." That had to do with a plague that came, and the plague caused all like rings on the body and all kinds of problems. And so, when the kids are going round and round saying "Ring around the roses, pocket full of posies," it's like, this is talking about a terrible event where a lot of people died. And then, of course, on the positive side, there's the 12 Days of Christmas, A Partridge in a Pear Tree. That song was written so that when Christianity couldn't be discussed, they came up with this song so that each one of those days of Christmas had a special meaning. I think the partridge in the pear tree would have been Jesus hanging on the cross, and that each of the other numbers in the song had something to do about biblical learning. So we find that oftentimes songs that we sing remind us of things that have happened in our past. Well, my name is Richard Coleman, and I'm the pastor at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene in Lexington, South Carolina, and it's great to be able to spend just a few moments with you today. Well, Moses has gotten to the place in his life where he realizes it's time for a replacement. God's already told him that he's not going to be able to go into the promised land. They're getting close to that time. And so Moses asked God, I'll paraphrase it, for a great replacement, a really good replacement. You see, Moses wanted the Israelites to succeed. He had a lot invested in them. The old generation was gone, the new generation was here. He'd worked just about his whole life trying to get these people where they needed to be, not only spiritually but also physically. And so Moses went to God and he said, "Please help me find a great replacement for whenever I am gone." God chooses Joshua. The only time we'd heard about Joshua prior to this was he was one of the spies that went into the promised land and looked around and came back with a positive report. But God knew a lot more about Joshua than just that. He knew more than just the fact that he had a good attitude. God knew what his strengths and what his weaknesses were. God knew what his heart was like. See, God doesn't always pick the most talented or the most aggressive people to do something for him. Just like King David, when God chose David, he was like the runt of the family. Samuel looked around and Samuel didn't think David would have been the pick. He thought some of the bigger brothers, the taller brothers, the more athletic brothers would have been the choice. But the Bible tells us that God looks at the heart. And God chose Joshua. It would have been easy for Moses to say, well, I'm not going to waste my time, just a little bit of time I have left. I'm not going to waste my time training Joshua. He'll just have to learn by the school of hard knocks like I did. That's not what Moses did. What he did is he started giving Joshua authority. He started letting him get before the people so that people could recognize the fact that Joshua was a leader, so that when the time came for Joshua to take over, the people would already be used to him and would be able to listen to what he had to say. You see, Moses was looking beyond himself. and he was looking towards the next leader, the next generation. I was thinking about the dining hall that the Church of the Nazarene built down in Batesburg. It's a interesting story about how all of that came about, but I think it was just God's will. That's about all I can say. Is that suddenly I find myself that I'm the coordinator of getting that built. And so the first few things that happened in this, I would go to our district office and I'd say, well, here's some decisions that I need to make, like color of the outside of the building, one thing or another. So I want to see if this works for you guys. And the district superintendent at that time, after I asked him a couple of questions, he said, Richard, he said, you're in charge of that project. He said, whatever decisions need to be made, you make them. You don't need to ask us anything. Boy, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But then again, it allowed me to know what level of authority that I had. It's important for us to do that. As our children get older, that we start giving them some authority. We start giving them a little bit of rope, you would say. The ability to make decisions on their own, so that whenever they're suddenly out there by themselves, it's not the first time that they've ever had to make a decision. You've probably heard me tell the story before, and it's just one of those memories about my dad. It was a Christmas, and there we were shooting firecrackers like we did every Christmas with my cousins, and they pulled out some cherry bombs, and these cherry bombs, I don't know what they are today, but these cherry bombs, if you put them in a mailbox and lit them and shut the door to the mailbox, it would blow the mailbox apart. That's how powerful these things were. And so when we met, usually we just had firecrackers and we would hold on to it. Someone would light it. We'd throw it into the air and watch it burst. And every once in a while there was a short fuse and it would blow up in your hand and make your hand go numb for about 5 minutes. Well, someone decided, hey, let's throw cherry bombs. So they wanted us to hold the cherry bomb. They'd light the fuse and then we throw it. And this is the same cherry bomb that would blow a mailbox apart. Well, I knew that wasn't a very good idea, but I was probably only 10 or 11 years old, and I didn't want to make it look like I was scared. So I said, let me go check with my dad and see if this is okay. And I went in and found my dad, and I said, Dad, they're wanting to throw cherry bombs. I said, what do you think about that? And he just looked at me and he said, son, I think you're old enough that you can make that decision yourself. And that was the one time I really wanted my dad to come down hard and just tell me no, but he didn't do it. He said, you make that decision yourself. And so I went outside and I said, guys, I've talked to my dad. I'm not going to be able to throw those cherry bombs. And they said, well, we understand. I think also about John the Baptist. John the Baptist was he was the popular guy. I mean, boy, everybody knew who John the Baptist was in that area. I mean, he was the one, preaching and teaching, and people were coming and asking for forgiveness of sins, and he was baptizing them. And then Jesus shows up, and all of a sudden, John the Baptist, his popularity starts going down. And they come to John and say, this is terrible. I mean, you need to do something about this guy. And John says, no. He said, this is the way it's supposed to be. I am supposed to become less, and he is supposed to become greater. History shows that good leaders, or even great leaders, help those around them come to a place where they can make decisions and they can take over responsibilities. Moses wrote a song. I started out today talking about songs. Moses wrote a song, and he said, I'm writing this song so that when I am gone, that people will still be singing the song, and it will tell them the history that we've been through and the things that they need to look out for and be careful about. I read the song, and it's one of those long ones, but it says that Moses taught this song to the people. As the years went by and the Israelites had a tendency of veering off course and doing the things that was against God's will, I wonder how many people might have been out working in their garden or tending their sheep and maybe humming that tune. We've got a little song that we sing with the children, and it's one of those that if we ever sing it with the children on Sunday, I cannot get it off of my mind all day long. It's just one of those catchy tunes. It's like making melodies in my heart, making melodies in my heart, making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. And if I ever sing that song like right now, it'll probably be on my mind all the rest of the day. I believe that's what Moses was trying to do. He even said it. He said, I want you to have this song so that you can realize where you've been and look at where you're going. You see, it's not about us personally, but it's about what we believe in. You know, when I'm gone, I don't expect people to remember me very long. But I would like for them to remember what I believed in and what was important to me. And they're not going to say, oh yeah, I remember, Richard believed in this or he believed in that. But I'm hoping that it'll be my children, my grandchildren. I'm hoping that it'll be our church members and the friends and the people that I've come in contact with, that they'll be able to pick up something from my life that might help them in their life. And maybe, if you and I have never met, maybe something in these talks might be able to help us move forward. Maybe a time where we can influence children, where we can influence our friends and say, I heard this fella that I don't even know say this, and it made sense to me because it came out of God's Word. So can we do that? Can we just go ahead and make up our mind that we're going to prepare the people around us, that we're going to let people work towards a positive end in their life? It's not about me. It's about God's work and God's will. And so that's going to be my prayer for you this week, is that we can surrender all of who we are to God. It's not about me. And may we be able to sing the song that God has put in our heart. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you. And may you truly be able to sing God's song this week.